I'd like to thank everyone for coming along to this weed session. As Mark mentioned, myself and Michael Walsh will be presenting on weed seed management at harvest time. The two presentations are complementary. If you have any questions, I think we might hold them over until after we've both presented and we'll field those questions together. But very excited to be presenting this data to you today. It's a new concept for the Northern farming system and it is all about improved weed management. So who here thinks that we require improved weed management in the Northern region? If I could get you to raise your hand, please. Raise it up nice and high. Okay, good. I'm talking to the right audience. Okay, so the take-home messages from this presentation. Firstly is that there are a large number of weed seeds being produced at winter crop harvest time. Secondly, we've identified that there's a need for harvest weed seed management in our northern winter crops. At the end of this presentation, I'll be asking you the question, do you think there is a need for harvest weed seed management in our northern crops? So as I'm going through this presentation, please keep that in mind. Okay, so before I go into what we've done, I just want to outline what's currently happening in our northern weed management. So up here on the screen, I've got a very basic schematic of a winter cropping system. So you can see here we have our summer fallow, our winter crop, and then going back into our summer fallow. So we're putting on weed management tactics in our lead up to our winter crop and also in our winter crop. And the whole idea behind that is to minimise the impact of the weeds on our whole farming system, not only just this winter crop. But what's happening is late in the winter crop, we quite often find that we have weeds. And in our current system, we're not really doing anything to control those weeds late in crop. Because what options do we really have? So those weeds are producing seed, that seed is returning to our seed bank and it's undoing all the good work that has been done pre-crop or in crop. So this presentation is looking at what is our current situation late in the crop, and then Michael will talk about what's happening in Western Australia to address this issue, and does any of that suit our system here in the north. So just quickly, what we've done is a series of surveys in wheat and chickpea paddocks across the northern region. We've done 10 wheat and 10 chickpea paddocks in the Liverpool Plains, in the Goondiwindi region, and also in the Dalby-Cecil Plains region. In each of these paddocks that we're surveying, we're going through and seeing what weed species are present at harvest time. We're looking at what weed species are setting seed at harvest time, and of those setting seed, how much that seed is being set above harvest height. Now we've set harvest height for wheat as 15 centimetres and harvest height in chickpea at 5 centimetres. Now they may be a little bit below what harvest height normally is, but we've done that because we're trying to see whether this technology of harvest weed seed management suits our system. The other thing we've done, at each of the sites we've then collected samples of the weeds that we found to be seeding. We've then done seed counts on that and estimations of how much seed is actually being produced above harvest height at harvest time. So an overview of the findings. You can see there that we have quite a large number of weed species in both wheat and chickpea across the whole northern region. And in addition to that, we have a large number of weed species seeding at harvest time. For example, if you look at the Liverpool Plains region, in wheat we have 18 species. Out of that, 12 of them are setting seed at harvest time. In chickpea, 22 different species and 16 of them are setting seed at harvest time. Now what is more alarming is the bottom line of data there to show what percentage of these weed species are actually setting seed above harvest height. And you can see there for yourself, it's a large percentage of those weed species. For example, again, we'll look at the Liverpool Plains. In wheat, 62% of the species are setting seed above harvest height. Of the samples of these species, and 83% in chickpea are setting seed above harvest height. So you can see already we've got a bit of an issue here, haven't we? So what is that impact? So what seed is being returned currently to our seed bank that we could be able to stop? So before I get onto that, the common species that we found in wheat, probably no surprise to any of you, sow thistle, fleabane and wild oat. So you've got, out of the paddocks that have got sow thistle, 80% of them are seeding, and there's 66% of them are seeding above harvest height. Okay, so then moving on to chickpea, it's actually more extreme. We found that there was a larger proportion of these weeds producing seed above harvest height than in the wheat, and that's what you'd expect. Chickpea being a poorer competitor than wheat, and also we've probably got fewer herbicide options for some of these weeds in chickpea than we do in our wheat crops. So one of the additions there is we found turnip weed, so it was fairly common in our paddocks, and 100% of the turnip weed we found were setting seed above harvest height. So just moving on now in terms of the numbers of seeds that are being produced. So I've just picked here the 4 key weeds that we identified in wheat and chickpea. And you can see, generally speaking, you're getting a higher number of weed seeds produced in chickpea. And again, that's no surprise because of the reduced competitiveness of the crop. But you can see in chickpea, for example, this is weed seed production per plant above harvest height. You can see for sow thistle and fleabane, there's huge numbers of seed that currently are just going back into our seed bank. Okay, so in the absence of any other weed management practices late in crop, which is pretty common because we don't really have anything available at this stage, these are the sorts of numbers that are returning. So something needs to be done. I've just brought out a few of the other weed species that we found that weren't quite as common, but I thought would be of interest to this audience. So we've pulled out African turnip weed, and I've pulled it out purely because you look at that number there, that's a huge number of seed being returned to the seed bank. We've got other species such as black bindweed, you can see here, has that effect of climbing up the crop. What's happening to that seed? It's going back to the seed bank. Is there an opportunity for us to do something to stop that seed from returning to the seed bank? And the other ones that I thought I'd add down the bottom here are barnyard grass and windmill grass. The reason I've added them, firstly, is because it was quite a surprise to find them setting seed in our chickpea crop, so it's in our winter crop. The other reason I've added them there is because, as you'd be aware, these 2 species have been identified as having glyphosate resistance. Particularly for barnyard grass, that resistance appears to be quite widespread. So here we've got a situation where we're perpetuating a glyphosate resistance problem. So again, is there something we can do about it? Okay, so before I go on to this, if you raised your hand at the beginning of the presentation to say that we need improved weed management in the north, can I get you to put your hand up and keep it up, please? If you remember, if you put your hand up. Okay, keep your hand up if you think we need to do something in terms of stopping weed seed bank replenishment at the end of our winter crop. Yeah? Okay, that's good. So no hands really went down. So I think we've all identified there may be a role for weed seed management in northern farming systems. Okay, some questions do exist though, and we'll discuss this after Michael does his presentation. Do the existing technologies work in our farming system? And we'll have a good discussion about that hopefully very soon. And also, do these technologies fit the weeds that we've identified as setting seed? Secondly, we've just completed surveys in our summer crop. So we've done exactly the same thing and we've done it in sorghum. Now I'm not presenting those results because we only finished that survey last week and we're yet to do them in central Queensland. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we have the same sort of weed pressures in our summer crops. And thirdly, next week we actually have 3 key farmers from Western Australia coming over to assist in some workshops on weed seed management at harvest time. The first one will be at Moree next Tuesday, and then we go to Walgett, Coonamble and to Spring Ridge. This is both an information sharing opportunity for us, but it's also an information gathering opportunity. We need feedback on whether or not you think there's a role for weed seed management and whether you think the technologies fit our systems and weeds. So if you require any further information about those workshops, please come and see me later. As I said, the Moree one's on next Tuesday. Rob Long is helping us out with that one. So it'd be good to have as many of you along as possible. So just lastly, call to action. We really need to recognise the value of stopping seed set. I mean, we all understand the concept of a weed seed bank, and that's where our weed problems come from. If we don't value stopping seed return, well, we're not going to see the need for harvest weed seed management. Secondly, we need to evaluate weed control in crop, and that's what this survey has been doing. Admittedly, it's only a survey across one season, and it's across a limited number of paddocks, but I believe it gives a good snapshot and a good representative picture of what happened this season in the northern region. And we need to then ask, well, how are we controlling our sprayed survivors in crop? Currently, I dare say there's no control happening. And also ask the questions, what's the impact of weed seed return? Am I undoing all that good work that I've been doing in the lead up to the crop? And secondly, what options are available late in crop to stop weed seed return? So I'd like to stop it there. I would like to thank GRDC and Widderick for supplying funding to do this research. Also the agronomists and farmers who helped locate paddocks to survey, and technical support which has done all the dirty work like counting the weed seeds. So with that, I might open it up just for some questions if there's anything for clarification on the presentation. Murray?
Feather top, did you have that on the list or did it not come up? Or?
We really didn't find much feathertop Rhodes grass in our winter surveys. We have been finding it in our summer surveys, and as you'd expect, it is setting seed above harvest height in our sorghum.